welcome to the Marley Bird YouTube channel, brought to you by yarnspirations.com. In this video, I get to show you one of my very own knit designs. This is the Greyson Waves knit scarf. Isn't it beautiful? I designed this scarf with a very simple lace stitch pattern, divided up with some really great garter stitch ridges. You can see here that there are blocks of color in this scarf. Specifically, there are 3 different colors used to make this scarf, and you will only use 1 ball of each color, making this a 3-ball project. Along with the 3 different balls of Chic Sheep yarn, you will need a pair of size 9 needles, 2 stitch markers, a tapestry needle, and a good pair of scissors. This is a free pattern available at yarnspirations.com. I'll put a link to the pattern in the video description box right down there below. And while you're down there, please smash that like button, as my kids say. Once you have the pattern and your materials, join me back here and I'll get you started on this really great scarf. We begin the scarf right down here with a garter stitch border, and then we jump into some very simple eyelet stitches. You will also work these eyelet stitches at the very end of the pattern. I thought it was a nice way to really just make the beginning and the end of the scarf a little bit different from the rest of the body. You can use any 3 colors of Chic Sheep you wish for this scarf. I will show you some different colors throughout this video, and we're going to start off with the color lace. I typically do all of my cast-ons as a long tail cast-on unless a pattern tells me to do it differently. So I will go ahead and cast on a total of 39 stitches using the long tail cast-on. Now I am using circular needles just because I prefer them, but if you want to make this scarf on a pair of straight size 9 needles, you absolutely could do that. Once you have all 39 stitches cast on, you will then knit 3 rows. Know that this very first row that you knit, it is a wrong side row. So this first row you knit is just a wrong side row, and you will knit it just like you would any other knitted project. Okay, I'm switching colors on you here because I've already worked up this portion of the pattern. I have knit 3 rows, and then I have gone ahead and knit the following row. So this would be row 1 of the pattern after the 3 garter stitch rows. I will now turn my work and I will do row 2. And row 2 is where we are going to set up our stockinette and set up our garter stitch on the sides. And so this is where we will start to add our stitch markers. So I like to knit 4, and then in order for me to make sure that I always knit these stitches on the outside of the scarf at the start and at the end, I like to add a marker there. So I knit 4, add a marker. Now I will purl to the last 4 stitches. When you get to the last 4 stitches, add that second marker and then knit the last 4 stitches. Pretty simple stuff here. Turn my work, and at this point you should be able to see the stockinette stitches starting to separate themselves off from the garter stitch at the bottom. We will knit this entire row, and it's the next wrong side row when we create our eyelets for that simple lace pattern here at the border. So let's get down this row, knitting all of the stitches. And just in case you've never worked with stitch markers before, when you come to the stitch marker, you simply slip it over and carry on. That's the last stitch of my row 3. So I will turn my work, and beginning row 4, this is where I will start off, and in between my markers here, that's where I will be working yarn overs and purl 2 togethers to create those eyelets. Remember, I keep the first 4 and the last 4 stitches in garter stitch, so I will always knit those. So I'm going to knit those. I come to my marker and slip it. I will go ahead and I'm going to purl my first stitch. Purl my first stitch. Now I will jump in to my pattern sequence. So I yarn over my needle and then I bring my yarn back forward and I purl 2 together. Yarn over my needle, bring my yarn back forward between my needles and purl 2 together. Okay, I'm going to hold my yarn in my other hand just so you guys that are throwers can see how this works. So if my yarn is in front, I go over my needle, bring it back between my needles back to the front. See how I have essentially wrapped my right hand needle? And now I purl 2 together. So I go into 2 stitches and I purl them together. My yarn is in front, go over my right hand needle, come back between my needles. So my yarn's back in front and I've got that yarn over there. And then I purl 2 together. And I will repeat this all the way to my marker or to the last 4 stitches. I'm going to switch and put my yarn back over here because this is my preferred way. You finish off with a purl 2 together, slip your marker, and then you knit the last 4 stitches. All right, super easy. Now we turn our work, and for rows 5 through 7, we will repeat rows 1 through 3, essentially just continuing on with our stockinette. So as I turn my work here, I'm on my right side, so I know that if I have lost my way in the pattern, I know that I'm on a knit row or a side, my right side row. And so on this particular row, I want to show you what it will look like as you come across those yarn overs. So that way you know what you're looking at and what to expect. Here was our purl 2 together, so I'm simply going to knit it. And there is my yarn over. See how it literally looks like just a piece of yarn resting on my needle? That is exactly what it's going to look like, and you simply knit it. It is that easy. Your stitch count, if you've done everything correctly, has not changed. You still have 39 stitches on your needle, so make sure you still have 39 stitches on your needle, okay? If you don't, then you could have accidentally created an extra stitch or forgotten to work a decrease on the previous row, and you'll have to redo that row. But at this point, if you did it just like I showed you, you will still have 39 stitches on your needles. Knit my last 4. So that would be my row 5, which is a repeat of row 1. So I just knit, and at this point you should be able to see those eyelets taking shape, and that is the result of your purl 2 together and your yarn over. Pretty neat, right? Okay, that was row 5, and we know that when we're on the wrong side, we keep those outside stitches outside of our markers in knits, and the center stitches, we will purl those. And then, so that would be row 6. Row 7, you will knit the whole row again. Rows 8, 9, and 10, you knit all of those rows. So it's when you get to row 11, that's when the color change happens, and that's when we begin the lace pattern. So I've already worked up a swatch to that point, so let's take a look. And you get to see a new color of yarn in play. Time for a sound off. What colors will you use for your scarf? Let me know in the comment section below this video. Okay, so here we are. This would be the finished border. Here's the garter stitch. There are the lace stitches you created, the stockinette portion, that was 5 through 7, and then these are your 3 rows of garter stitch for rows 8, 9, and 10. And I'm ready to begin my lace stitch pattern. So I have changed colors. I have cut what was the velvet color here, and I have tied on lace. Now when I say tied on, I literally just tie the lace color right over that velvet color, so that way it doesn't go anywhere. I find it helpful when I'm doing color work and I'm joining new colors just to tie one onto the other. And we are ready to jump in to the body, okay? So here we go with the body. We are on row 1 and we're on the right side. If you need to mark this as the right side to know, you could do that, but just know every time you're looking at the stockinette side where it looks like the knits, that's the right side of your fabric. So for row 1, we will begin with a knit 5. So let's just knit 5 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slip your marker. There is your knit 5. And here comes your repeat. Whenever you come to an asterisk in your pattern, that is the part of the pattern that will be repeated. So that way you can get the full pattern across all of the stitches. For our repeat, we yarn over our right hand needle. And then you will knit 3 stitches. Now we have to do a center double decrease. So these next 2 stitches, we are going to slip them both at the same time as if to knit. So I'm into both of those stitches as if to knit, and I just slip them off. Now I will knit 1, and now I will take my left hand needle, grab those 2 stitches that you slipped, and have them jump up and over that stitch that you did the knit 1. Okay, what this will do, it gives you a really beautiful center line right up the center of the lace. Let's take a look at this one. You can see this nice line. That's the center double decrease worked throughout the center of this lace pattern. Okay, so we did the center double decrease. Now we will knit 3. Yarn over, and then knit 1. Okay, that is one repeat. Now we have to do another repeat. So we do this all the way down until we get to the last 4 stitches. So we go back to where the star is, you yarn over, knit 3, do the center double decrease where you slip 2 stitches as if to knit at the same time, knit 1, and then pass those 2 stitches you slipped up and over the 1 stitch that you knit. Okay, you got that? That's called the center double decrease. Now you will knit 3, yarn over, and knit 1. I have one more repeat, so I yarn over, knit 3, whoops, do the center double decrease, so I slip 2 stitches as if to knit at the same time, knit 1, and then pass those 2 stitches over the stitch that you just knit. Knit 3, okay, yarn over, knit 1. That brings us to our last 4 stitches, which is exactly where we want to be. Slip your marker, knit the last 4 stitches. Okay, pretty easy. Now we're going to turn our work and we will do a wrong side row. And all of the wrong side rows on this pattern when we're working the body lace are the same. So we will keep the first 4 stitches into the garter stitch. So we will knit those first 4, slip our marker, and then purl to the last 4. We will do this every time we're on the lace body portion. When you get to the last 4 stitches, you will knit those. Pretty easy. Now we turn our work. We will do the next lace stitch row. Okay, so we are on row 3. We will knit 5. Slip our marker, knit 1. Okay. Now we're on our repeat. We knit 1, yarn over, knit 2, and this is where we do our center double decrease, and you'll begin to see where it starts to line up. and you'll be able to easily identify when it's time to do that particular decrease. Now I go ahead and I knit 2, yarn over, and then knit 2. That's the end of that repeat. Now I repeat it 2 more times to finish off this row. So the first part of the repeat is knit 1, yarn over, knit 2, center double decrease, knit 2, yarn over, knit 2. Knit 1, yarn over, knit 2, center double decrease, knit 2, yarn over, knit 2. Slip your marker, finish off with knit 4. That's the end of row 3, okay? Let's go ahead. I'm going to work my row 4, which is a wrong side row, keeping the first 4 and the last 4 in garter stitch and the center in stockinette. You do the same, and then we'll move on to row 5. I just finished my row 4. I'm ready to move on to row 5. And as I turn my work, I'm beginning to start to see the center double decrease right there. And my yarn overs are going to start pointing up just like the sample, and it'll be a little bit more visible here as I get a couple more rows completed. For row 5, we start off with a knit 5. Slip my marker. So there is my knit 5, and I'm at my repeat. So I will knit 2, yarn over, knit 1. See my center double decrease? It's really starting to show up there. So I will work my center double decrease, knit 1, yarn over, and then knit 3. Okay? Pretty easy. Let's carry on. You repeat this for 2 more times for the pattern. So the repeat is knit 2, yarn over, knit 1, center double decrease, knit 1, yarn over, knit 3. That was the second one, so this will be my last repeat here. I will knit 2, yarn over, knit 1, center double decrease, knit 1, yarn over, knit 3. That brings me to my marker, slip it, and I can knit 4. Pretty great, isn't that? Okay, so that was the end of my row 5. Row 6, once again, I'm still in the stockinette portion, so I will work my row 6, and then I will show you how to do row 7. Let's do row 7. So row 7 has us begin with a knit 5. And then we jump into our pattern repeat, which is knit 3, yarn over, we're to our center double decrease. Can you see it there? Yarn over, and then knit 4. Can you see how that lace bit is really starting to take shape? Okay, let's do this again. So the repeat is knit 3, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, center double decrease, yarn over, knit 4. Last repeat, knit 3, yarn over, center double decrease, yarn over, knit 4. Slip marker, knit the last 4 stitches. Take a look. As you were working this pattern, did you notice that whenever you did the yarn over, it was always, the first one was always just 1 stitch over to the left, and the second one was 1 stitch over to the right, until you got up to where the yarn overs were side by side to the center double decrease. Can you see how it came up like this? And the center double decrease gets rid of 2 stitches. So as you did a yarn over here and a yarn over here, which increased 2, your center double decrease decreased 2. So your stitch count never changed at all throughout the pattern. Can you see how that works up just like so? It's pretty neat. By recognizing how your lace stitches look on your actual fabric, you will be able to easily identify if you happen to make a mistake in your lace. If all of a sudden you have a yarn over show up in the middle of all of that stockinette, you will know that, oh man, you might have had a problem right there, and you'll be able to tink back to that part of the pattern. So it's really important that you really look at the stitches as you're making them. Don't just follow blindly to the pattern and think, oh, I got to remember where I am so I don't get lost. As you get going and you look at the pattern, you will easily be able to memorize this, okay? So that was row 7. Row 8 is obviously just a wrong side row. We're still on the body portion, so we would just knit the first 4, purl to the last 4, and then knit the last 4. After you've done that, rows 9 through 15 are just a repeat of these first 8 rows. So you repeat those right there. So doesn't this look like, it looks like it's a lot more than that, but this stitch pattern repeat, it goes to right there, and the second one, it goes from there to there. And this is the beautiful look you get as you repeat it. You see what I mean about the yarn overs? They are just to one side or the other of the center double decrease. Once you finish with row 15, you're then ready to work the garter stitch again. 16, 17, and 18 are simply garter stitch. You don't change colors for this section of the garter stitch either. You keep it in the color you just used for the body of the work. Once you finish with row 18, it's time to cut your yarn and rejoin your next color in the sequence. And then you do it all over again. That's right. This is the first sequence of color we did. This will be the second sequence of color, and it is simply a repeat of this. This is rows 1 through 8, and then this is 9 through 15. And then you have 16, 17, and 18 are your garter stitch. Pretty simple, right? You just repeat these 18 rows for as many times as written in the pattern if you want to make sure you don't run out of yarn, or for as many times as you want your scarf length to be, minus about, an inch and a half. That's what the second side border measures, is about an inch and a half. For this one, let's just go through this. You can see all of the color changes. And I loved how the garter stitch continued on with the color of the body you were working. So I always changed colors right after the garter stitch. It made it easy to remember. And the garter stitch is also a really great place. If you had to rip out a color, you could just pick up stitches very easy in the garter stitch because they're all knits. So you don't have to worry about dropping a yarn over or something. So that makes it so you really don't need a lifeline. Your garter stitch sort of acts as a lifeline for you. Okay, when you get down here to the end, now I did something a little bit different. On mine, I wanted to go ahead and continue this full body and have the garter stitch applied in this color. Okay, can you see that? And then I jumped to the border, which is the stockinette, and then the open eyelets, and then you finish with the garter stitch. By doing it this way, it was pleasing to my eye because it gave this body section the same sort of like sequence as all the others. However, that does make the two edges different. Can you see that? This one has garter stitch in the platinum color before it jumps into the body. And this one, it ends with the sterling garter stitch and then jumps into the platinum. So the way I wrote the pattern is to have it just like this. But if this bothers you, you could change to the platinum right here on this last garter stitch section on the last body portion that you work for your scarf. Does that make sense? Okay, so on this last portion here, I'm not going to show you how to do it on camera because you should know how to do this. It's just stockinette stitches, and then once again, it's the yarn overs and the decreases, and then stockinette, and then you finish off with garter. Okay, very, very, very easy. When you're done with the whole project, you will have ends to weave in. Now, for me, I like to weave in as I go. So I would do a couple sections of the body and then weave in my ends, and then a couple sections of the body and then weave in my ends. That way I didn't have to wait till the very end. And when you weave in your ends, I like to bury my ends. And I did it just right here in the garter stitch section. So you can only tell when you're looking at the wrong side, and I point it out to you. Okay, I just made it so that my ends were tucked in the garter stitch section right where the color change happens. And they'll all be on the same side because every time you change color, it's always going to be on that side of your scarf. But it's really not difficult to bury your ends. I did not think it was smart to come in here where all the lace is, which is one of the reasons I like to have the garter stitch border, so that way you have a place to do those color change ends to weave in. Okay, you have a place to weave those in. Once your entire project is done, I gave mine a good soaking in the bath with some wool wash, and then I pinned it out just to open it up a little bit and let it dry. So I washed and blocked my scarf, and this is it, you guys. That's it. That's how easy this pattern is. It's just this, they say it's an 18 row repeat, but really it's 1 through 8 and then 1 through 8 again. And then you have just garter stitch, and then you change those colors, and those color changes make it so that you don't get bored as you're working a scarf pattern. And as I mentioned, those garter stitch sections really act as a self-imposed lifeline because it gives you a place to rip back to at the color change and then just pick up those knit stitches and start again should you mess up in a section. But this scarf is really easy. It's fun to wear. There are so many great colors out there for you to choose. You don't even have to stop at 3 if you don't want to. If you don't mind how many balls of yarn you're working with, you could have a different section for the entire scarf. Or if you wanted to make this just one color, you could just use one color throughout the entire scarf. Just don't break the yarn and rejoin, just continue on, and then you won't have any ends to weave in except when you change to a new ball of yarn. Pretty easy stuff. So that's it for this scarf. I hope you love it as much as I do. It is very, very, very easy to make. Just take your time, work through those stitches that I just showed you how to do. That center double decrease gets rid of 2 stitches. So you have to make sure you have those 2 yarn overs on either side on that particular row, and your stitch count will not change throughout the entire pattern. So as long as you always have those 39 stitches on your needle, you will be a-okay. All right, I'm Marley Bird. This is the Marley Bird YouTube channel, and this is the Greyson Waves knit scarf. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget, this is a free pattern over at yarnspirations.com. And when you get a chance, hit subscribe to the Marley Bird YouTube channel so you are notified whenever I release a new video. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye. Hey, thanks for joining me today on the channel. If you want more videos just like that one, check out some of these other videos that I've already handpicked for you. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that way you're up to date whenever I release a new video. And don't forget, smash that like button, as my kids say. Bye, guys.